It's another trading day. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations here in Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekon. As usual, we'll start from what's going on in the global oil space. This morning, we saw that oil prices steadied after steep falls in previous two trading sessions. Investors are waiting to see if efforts to end the US-Iran war, which we know Oman has intervened, if that will restore traffic through the blockade Strait of Hormuz, if that will be progress today. Qatar had said yesterday that mediators were making progress in effort to end the war, driving oil prices lower, although Tehran has denied the US President Donald Trump's assertion that talks are already underway. So following all of this, we see Brent is down less than $80 this morning, and that's at $79.25 a barrel, 0.15% down, and WTI also has dropped 0.71% to $72.25 a barrel. We know that Oman has intervened, and the United States has hinted that perhaps we could hear a progress report today, but we're not sure of that because we haven't heard of from Iran yet. Well, Trump and Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, they discussed efforts to narrow differences between Washington and Tehran and improve the prospect for a lasting settlement. This was done yesterday over a phone call, and Mr. Trump had said that talks with Tehran had started and Iran faced a last chance to reach a deal. Iranian officials insist that there's no negotiation going on with the United States at this time. And we head to the markets where we saw the bear resurface yesterday. So it's the market closed 0.38% at 244,802.83, while the equities we saw yesterday lost about 500 billion, almost $590 billion is what was drawn out of the market yesterday. So that brought us down to 158.015. Volume is the only one that was in the green at the close of trade. Value and deals closed in the red yesterday. Top gainers were AVCAP, Enrate and Livestock, and top losers Living Trust. Multiverse dropped 10% yesterday. Mikos also dropped, and top trades had more of profit taking. Japan Gold, Sterling, and FCMB. Away from the markets now, the Rural Electrification Agency has partnered Ecotech Development Nigeria Limited to establish a solar panel and battery manufacturing facility in Nigeria. And this is as the federal government moves to reduce dependence on imported renewable energy equipment. Speaking in Abuja during the signing of the agreement, the REA Managing Director Abba Aliyu said that the partnership will help build local manufacturing capacity at a time when more than 85 million Nigerians, that's about 40% of the population, still lack reliable access to grid electricity. Mr. Aliyu described the agreement as a major milestone, saying that it marks the first time a Tier 1 Chinese renewable energy company will establish manufacturing operations in Nigeria. He adds that the project will create jobs, retain foreign exchange, reduce import, and support faster electricity access across the country. And yesterday, the National Economic Council, the NEC, they approved the refinancing of the $3.3 billion Project Gazelle pre-export finance facility through a new $4.5 billion facility named Project Gazelle 2. This was the outcome of the 159th meeting of the Council, which held virtually, chaired by the Vice President Kashim Shettima. The approval allows NNPC Limited to refinance the outstanding balance of approximately $1.5 billion under the original 2023 facility, while unlocking additional $3 billion in liquidity to strengthen the country's external reserves and support ongoing fiscal and infrastructure priorities of the government. Next approval follows a presentation by the Minister of Finance, Dr. Taiwo Oyedele, who says that the new facility has been negotiated on more favorable terms, including a reduction in the volume of crude oil pledged under the agreement.
As many Nigerians would know already, the NNPC Limited entered into an arrangement under Project Gazelle for a $3.3 billion facility for which 90,000 barrels of crude oil per day was committed. Now what has happened is, in a way to find means of reducing the cost of those facilities, Project Gazelle 2 facility was presented to Council for approval, which would enable NNPCL to be able to embark on a $4.5 billion Project Gazelle 2 facility. Now about 1.5 billion of the original 3.3 remains outstanding, so the 4.5 billion would settle the 1.5, and that provides additional facility of $3 billion for the Federation. Not only that, the number of committed crude will reduce from 90,000 barrels a day to 78,750. That's a reduction of 12.5%. Again, that also provides more fiscal space for monthly accretion of revenue to the Federation account available to all the 3 tiers of government. So overall, this is more around fiscal efficiency, improving the fiscal space for the Federation, and ultimately to the benefit of the Nigerian people.
And now let's talk about food security. Now the government has introduced Nigeria's Guaranteed Minimum Price Aggregation Program. It's an agricultural market stabilization initiative launched in July this year, backed by 550 billion naira federal allocation to the Bank of Agriculture, and the scheme protects 2 million smallholder farmers from exploitative pricing and post-harvest losses. But before now, of course, we've had a lot of programs, which is why a lot of Nigerians will be, oh, is this yet another program? Let's look at some of those things. We have the Presidential Initiative on Food Security, expanding staple crop production and irrigation. Don't forget there was the emergency rule against food insecurity in Nigeria under President Bola Tinubu. We also have the subsidized seeds and fertilizers for smallholder farmers. And then we have, that's supposed to run from 2022 to 2027, the long-term agricultural transformation strategy. That's also still on. The special agro-industrial processing zones, we heard a lot about this, was it last week? It's supposed to boost agro-processing and reduce post-harvest losses. National Agricultural Development Fund, that's supposed to finance agriculture and agribusiness. We also have the Wheat Development Program, which is supposed to reduce wheat imports dependence. There's the Green Imperative Program, accelerating farm mechanization. There's the school feeding program, which is supposed to, I think this is the most popular of it, supporting nutrition while creating market for local farmers. So these are programs before now, and now we have this 550 billion naira federal allocation to the Bank of Agriculture that's supposed to touch the life of, or the businesses at least, of smallholder farmers, about 2 million of them. So let's find out, perhaps we can get a bit of update on some of these former programs, and then what to expect from this Guaranteed Minimum Price program of the federal government. We have the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of Agriculture joining us from our Abuja studio, Mr. Ayo Shotunri. Mr. Shotunri, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Well, good morning to you. Many thanks for inviting me over.
Good to have you. So how would you react to Nigerians saying this is perhaps one program too many?
The first thing you need to think of is, why should a country like Nigeria have food insecurity? The president of Nigeria, who feels the pulse of the farmers in 2025 realized that Nigerians are now complaining that the food prices are actually depressed, meaning prices at farm gates are not favorable to the farmers. If you recall, in 2024, food inflation was 40%. 40%. In 2025, the president, with different initiatives, when he declared food emergency and all that, was able to bring it down to 10.84%. And you can fact check me, I'm not giving you stories. A lot of Nigerians, know this. And the ones that don't know this, they can check. This is stats by, Central Bank of Nigeria. Now that food has come down to, depressed prices, prices of maize is too cheap according to the farmers. Prices of, cassava is even too cheap according to the farmers. And the president stepped in to say, why don't Bank of Agriculture, which has been, turned around, we call it Bank of Agriculture 2.0, come in with a fund to now guarantee offtake of food from farm gates for the farmers in Nigeria. Because if you think about it, you have the demand side, which are, the millers, the FMCG companies who produce, different things from the staple crops. You also have the supply side, which is our farmers, and the number over 70 million farmers in Nigeria, according to stats. And you're thinking, okay, how do we balance it? When the food prices were super high, all households complained in Nigeria. Now that it's too cheap, the farmers are complaining. So can we have a missing middle, which is a guaranteed minimum price, being done in other countries? This is not the first time it's been done, but this is the first time in the history of Nigeria that an administration would actually think of doing it. And let me correct you, it's not 550 billion, it's actually 200 billion. And what we plan to do
200 billion, sorry. You said it's how much?
Yes. 200 billion.
200 billion, okay.
Which is the guarantee minimum price mechanism, not necessarily a program, because a program means you do it for a while and it fizzles off. This one is here to stay. It is part of what the Bank of Agriculture will be doing day in, day out, because if you think about regular operations, we give microcredits to millions of farmers through farm aggregation companies. Now, the way we get paid back is we get them to aggregate this food stuff. And when the food stuff is sold, or the commodities, that's when we get paid back. So we've been doing it anyway. We've been doing it for 55 years. Now we're now saying, aside just aggregating food, why don't we try as much as possible to ensure that, we complete the cycle, the entire value chain of funding primary production, of aggregating food after harvest, and also giving guaranteed minimum price, which is a floor price to farmers. That means that, we solve the problems of, smallholder farmers producing and food insecurity in Nigeria, we become food secure. When we finish that, we can now start to look at high value commodities. How do we support, ginger revitalization in Nigeria for export, because last year we exported zero quantity and Nigeria used to be the largest exporter in the world. How do we support sesame export? How do we support cocoa export? So those are the things that, this administration is actually bringing to bear. And Bank of Agriculture, being a limited liability company under CAMA, we are literally private sector driven in our nature. The only difference is we're owned by government. So we do things for profit, but we prioritize impact before profit. So these are the things that, we're trying to do. I'm happy to talk you through the guaranteed minimum price program if you want Nigerians to understand it better.
Yeah, we'd certainly like to know how exactly it's going to work, because, and I know this is not new to you, where you hear that even though there are applaudable government programs, it seems it doesn't get to the people who really need it, or the political sentiment of the government in power blocks some people from being beneficiaries. So we'd like to know how this is going to cascade to the people who really need it, barring their political, like even the video we see there, it seems to be all about the politics.
So we don't do politics, unfortunately. Like I said, we are a private sector, we're state-owned enterprise. It's like CECC in China or CGC. We're not going to engage in politics. what you see there, it's a flag off of, the wet season, where we give loans. We don't share fertilizer, we give loans to farmer aggregation companies based on the fact they have done economics of production to say they want to finance each farmer with $1 million, 6 bags of urea fertilizer, 4 bags of NPK fertilizer, 5 bags of hybrid seeds, and crop protection. So all that is aggregated into a loan package. Then we now give a loan to the farm aggregation company. The only difference is he doesn't get cash from us. You tell us who you want us to pay in terms of the original equipment manufacturer or whatever producer of fertilizer. We pay them on your behalf, which is a loan book to your name, and we have a single obligor limit of 10 billion. Now, these guys who are farm aggregation companies, they do it anyway. Without us, they've been doing it. Bank of Agriculture before this administration was doing nothing. As I believe, they probably did a bit of Uncle Bora's program, and that was about it. So now that we've stepped in, with the federal might to see how we can finance, the sector, we are looking at how we ensure we are not doing procurement, which will be riddled with, this is my brother, political farmers, and we're not doing that. We are very sincere about, how we discharge our operations within the bank. We give a loan to you that is guaranteed by an instrument, either a legal mortgage or bank guarantee or, some sort of a liquid instrument. Once you do that, or NISO, which is our partner that we work with.
What's the requirement? Who qualifies? How do you get that requirement?
Thank you. So we put out a call for application. We got about 1,220 proposals, and we're able to select the 24 of the best that we know we can accommodate. Now, the requirements for these farm aggregation companies, you need to have been doing it before, so you need to have track record. You need to have a minimum threshold of revenues that you've been generating from this. But most importantly, you need to be able to prove and show you have genuine farmers that you've been supporting over a period of time. So some of them have 50,000 farmers that you've been supporting. Some of them have 100,000 farmers. Some of them have even 1 million farmers. But what we do is we use technology across the entire process, where you send us a list of your farmers, we put it in our system. If we see Ayuba, Aliu, Dantata, if we see Dantata, Ayuba, if we see Aliu, Ayuba, it might be the same person, but the system is so intuitive enough to check through the national identification number and filter through the fake farmers and original farmers. And don't forget, the farmers also have coordinates of their farm that have been captured by these farm aggregation companies. So by the time you put it there, you can link a farmer not necessarily only to his NIN, but to the coordinates of his farm. Once you're able to do that, our system accepts it. So out of the 1 million farmers some of them bring, we're only able to choose 120,000 farmers. Some of them bring 50,000 farmers, we're only able to choose maybe 7,000 farmers. So by the time we do this with all the people that we've sort of, chosen amongst them, we will now look for how to support them with more, flexible terms to grow the tier 4 aggregation company into tier 3, the tier 3 to tier 2, and the tier 2 to tier 1. What it means is, if you're doing 50,000 farmers, we want to support you and hold you, and we're at the process of you start to do 100,000 farmers, so that we can have enough of these farm aggregation companies become the obligor for us, rather than Bank of Agriculture record, massive non-performing loans through individual microcredits to 3 million, farmers.
All of us are
companies to do.
Let me just try to understand, and it's really impressive when you talk about the use of technology, and they have to be registered. I mean, we're looking for how to make Nigerian economy more formal and inclusive. So we do need data and all of that. But I'm just thinking of when we look at a bulk of farmers who perhaps a lot of them do not, because I remember a former minister of agriculture had tried to use fertilizer, USSD phones and all of that, and it seemed a lot of people were cut off from that. So while we appreciate the use of technology and data and getting them registered, I wonder if you're also doing something about helping them to even get registered, to even have their data. Some part of Nigeria, I don't think you can use GPS, especially when you go to the north and you want to use a GPS and all that. So how do you handle such situations, people in those areas?
You see, I'll be very candid. Technology has moved from 2011 when the former president of the FDB was the Minister of Agriculture. Technology has moved to the point where I can use satellite data to actually know where you are, what you're doing on a particular plot of land. When we go to, the farmers to sort of capture data in very remote areas, we have a device where we can take coordinates of the farm based on GPS and GPRS. We can take the details of the farmer, and we've done what is quite interesting. When I got appointed by the president, the first thing I said on air the very first time was to digitize the entire operations of the bank, which we've done now. Meaning we have a core banking application. We have a farmer data registry that we're building out on and all that. And to be able to get the information of these farmers, when we go to the field with this tablet, we can actually open not only NIN for them, but they can also actually get BVNs. So when we're boarding the farmer and getting his details, we're automatically also at the same time solving problems of financial exclusion by opening the bank account for the farmer. And don't forget, the founding fathers knew what they were doing with the Bank of Agriculture by setting it up in 110, locations across the entire country, giving us a closer proximity to the farmers. So we have agents, colleagues, staff all across the country. Plus, these are migration companies that we work with who have, warehouses and offices in the remotest parts of Nigeria. So we have at minimum one office or senatorial district across the entire country. So we are, the Bank of Agriculture, meaning we are the Bank of Farmers. So we go there to actually get these farmers in. Now, what's going to be interesting that you will see in coming months is a mobile bank in a bus. We're going to have Bank of Agriculture buses going to the remotest part of Nigeria to provide financial services, agronomy services to the farmers, plus the one-stop shop, the agri-hubs that we're building across the entire country. This is not a model that we invented. We're not trying to reinvent anything. We just want to copy models, apply it to Nigeria, and do it very well. This is a model we've copied from, Bank of Agriculture in Vietnam, where they have 2,400 outlets, and they are going to the farmers to actually give, financial services to the farmers. So with all the things that our mission is trying to do, this is to ensure there's no farmer that is disenfranchised. We have, many schemes that we're trying to do, irrigation for all, where we're going to be providing solar irrigation kits to the farmers to eliminate dry season and wet season farming, to ensure that with solar power, the farmers are not, they're not waiting on diesel or petrol to farm. And this is a mobile system. So the few things, but I would like to go back to the guaranteed minimum price, which you asked me, because it's the best tool that this administration has actually put into the agriculture sector, and this will revolutionize agriculture. So I'm happy to talk to you about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, and of course that's a major conversation this morning. And I'm also interested in how this program is supposed to help deal with post-harvest losses. We know that from records, the country loses about 50% of food production to post-harvest losses. And you did say that this is part of what it's supposed to be dealing with. So how do you connect that?
So there are a few things in resolving post-harvest losses, and we call ourselves within the Bank of Agriculture a think tank, not a think tank. We are very, very intelligent, smart people who sit down and just, create programs and projects every day to solve the problems within the sector. But we call ourselves a think tank because we also do stuff. So now to solve this problem, the smart thing to do is look at why we have post-harvest losses. First of all, the farmer farms, and at a particular time, that 1 hectare is giving in 3 tons. 3 tons is 3,000 kg. A farmer that has an Okada or a motorcycle can only move 50 kg at one time, right? We are creating a scheme where we're doing e-mobility, cargo tricycles that are battery powered or electricity powered, that can go out there. They've got a big back that can move 2 to 3,000 kg at once. So number one, you solve that problem of, things are getting rotten in the field. Number two, at the farm gate, you're moving things from the farm to the farm gate now. At the farm gate, with this guaranteed minimum price, we become buyers of last resort. We are there, we are aggregators who are saying, we want to buy all of your stuff, BOS giving you, a floor price, meaning they can't cheat you anymore. We create a system where we reduce all the middlemen trying to play, arbitrage, where they buy things from the farmers because the farmers know these things are going to spoil anyway if they don't sell it, and trying to play on the vulnerability of the farmer. So we eliminate that completely. We want to be able to do that and move things to storage. Whether you like it or not, if you look at both private storage and government silos, we have over 9 million tons of storage in country. Even with the mom and pop shop that is converted to a warehouse to the big ones. So we can actually store stuff. Now, the point is that farmer irrigation companies know they do it for business. Like I said, they do it without us anyway. They go to the commercial banks, get money at 35% to actually give the farmers input through an input financing scheme, aggregate from the farmers, and they take it to the warehouse. But sometimes they price the farmers too low. So this guaranteed minimum price means that they have to give the farmers the price that we set, that the government has given to the farmer, which solves the problem of the supply side. Now, the problem of the demand side means if prices are creeping up too high, the millers and the FMCG companies will start to complain. And when they complain about prices being too high, they can lobby. They will lobby for government to start, bringing in cheaper, grains from abroad, which we completely would, frown to. So on the demand side, when prices are creeping up too high, I think for maize, for case in point, we're giving them 350,000 naira per metric ton, which is, a far cry from the prices that went up to, I think they went as low as 160,000 naira. Now it's crept up since we started it to maybe about 310,000 naira, because we're also doing sensitization on over 40 digital channels, radio, TV, and print media. Once we're able to give these farmers a guaranteed minimum price, we're storing value. We're not wasting money. We're not giving them a subsidy. This gets stored in warehouses. When on the demand side, these millers are complaining, and the prices are creeping up to 450,000, 500,000. I think at a particular point in 2023, maize prices was about 600,000 per ton. We can now release these grains to the market and release it to the market at maybe 400,000. So that's what we call a market stabilization mechanism that this administration is trying to, implement for the agriculture sector in Nigeria. Meaning, there's no one who complains about food prices are too high or food prices are too low.
Yeah, and I guess with a plan like this, Nigeria should be able to overcome, the off-season hike in the price of some food crops and all of that. But, I mean, even from the explanation you have given, it sounds like it needs a lot of coordination. I wonder how you have the value chain around that. What plans you have there?
Okay. I'll continue to go back to the point that I made earlier, that these farm aggregation companies, they do it without us. Likes of Azikinoma, Afex, Thriver Greek, they support 500,000 farmers each. They know how to, aggregate from the farmers, and they have contracts with, flour mills of Nigeria, Wakot, TGI, Olams of this world. We are now trying to say, if we step in, we're stepping in not only to support you, to grow you from 500,000 farmers to 1 million farmers, because we are trying to finance 70 million farmers in Nigeria if, we continue to raise enough capital for that. We are trying to say, within the ecosystem, we are bringing, our own expertise, but the most important thing is working with everybody, and bringing together the power of the collective, where we all have different roles to play. Farm irrigation company has a role to play. The exchanges have a role to play. By the time you take these commodities to the warehouse, the NCX, Nigeria Commodity Exchange, or AFEX, goes to the warehouse to issue electronic warrants receipts that is tradable on exchange. So it means that the farmers of Nigeria who want to buy, they stop disturbing themselves looking for grains. They can actually book on this exchange platform to say they want 40,000 tons of grains for October. And because there's electronic warrants receipts that talks about that, and collateral managers who could actually attest to the fact these things do exist in those warehouses. They pay through the exchange takes their fees, they pay the aggregator pays us back the loan that we gave to the aggregator. So it's all an ecosystem. And don't forget, we have a prime ministry that gives us direction, that sets the policy, which is the Ministry of Agriculture, manned by the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Senator Abubakar Kyari. So it's all working together as a collective. Now we're going to be working, in partnership with other agencies to actually, support, what we do. Aside the NCX, we have NADF who try and, co-opt into the program to also bring financing for us to be able to do this at scale. Because no matter the balance sheet that we have, it's never going to be enough. And I'll give you an example. Nigeria produces 11 million tons of grains, right? Government cannot fund 11 million tons of grains if you produce a ton of grain for maybe even 200,000 naira, right? You're talking about over 22 trillion. I mean, that's half of our budget. So it's always a concerted effort. We are constantly out there in roadshows trying to raise development capital from MDBs, MFIs, DFIs, even locally as well. We're constantly knocking on Mr. President's door to say, through the Ministry of Finance and CBN, we need more financing for the sector. The stats that says Nigerian agriculture sector requires over $10 billion worth of investment every year for the next 15 years. So where are we going to get that? $10 billion is, 15 trillion. We don't have that in the country. So it's our job to be on our toes every single day, working 18-hour days to ensure that we're crowding money into the sector. And we're doing it, in a very transparent, traceable manner. All these commodities that are going to be aggregated is on the technology rail. From the time of aggregation, the farmers are not paid by the aggregators. They are paid into their bank account by the Bank of Agriculture. So it's a digital payment. And the way it works is an aggregator now becomes even a BOA, account agent, where you immediately open a bank account for the farmer. And by the time, you punch in the technology platform we provided, that this person has supplied you, 4 tons of grains or 20 bags of maize, for example, we verify through the collateral managers and monies get credited from the computer into the bank account of the farmer. So he's forced to use his card. And that card, is something that we were able to do within the 12-month period where we digitize all our processes and we issue bank cards that is connected to all the banks in Nigeria and for even international transactions to every farmer. Meaning the first time in Nigeria that a farmer actually would have a bank card, which is not, a GT bank card or Zenny bank card, but what works like a GT bank card or Zenny bank card. And the last thing is his NIN number is imprinted on that card. So it means if there are interventions, maybe fertilizer for free from Ministry of Agriculture, he can actually use his card to go and claim the fertilizer because you put it into a Bank of Agriculture POS system and you punch it on the box, you can deduct the fertilizer and you get issued your fertilizer.
Well, sounds really interesting, I must say, and we're expectant and we expect that to work. And of course, it's something that the farmers would really appreciate because we do know that guarantee is also security for them to go back to farm the next season. But thank you so much, and we certainly wish you the very best in this program. Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Bank of Agriculture, Mr. Ayosotunri, thank you for your time.
Before we go, can I say one more thing?
Please go ahead.
We're not in the business of playing politics, right? Farmers might think, oh, you're giving it to X amount of farmers, you're not giving it to us. Let's be honest with ourselves. Give the bank a break and give us just sort of an elastic, ruler where watch us over a period of time. We want to be in operation properly for a year. You can't expect us to fix the problem of the entire agriculture sector. And like I said, we have 70 million farmers. There's no way the bank will finance 70 million farmers in a day. We financed 500,000 farmers so far. Our next, ambitious plan is to move to 2 million farmers. And after we move to 2 million farmers, we'll see, how we can cascade that to 5 million, 10 million farmers. But we're also limited with funding. We don't have all the monies in the world. I've just done the mathematics for you of sector 22 trillion. So it's very difficult. So I say that to just sort of say the farmers should please just give us, some sort of rope to actually continue to do our work. As I'm speaking to you, I'm not feeling very well because your body shuts down working 18-hour days. But I needed to come here to actually speak to Nigerian farmers, to appeal to them, to just give the administration, some sort of time to start to fix these problems. Food inflation was 40%. In a year, Nigeria government has brought it down to 10%, 10.84%. So let's see how we can bring it down to 5% and, maybe 1% in coming years. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. And I'm sure the farmers hear you. And thank you so much for your time and sharing all of that. We're expectant, as I said earlier, and we'll be following the progress of this program.
Thank you.
All right, now, despite growing global economic uncertainty, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, says that global trade remains resilient, offering countries like Nigeria a unique opportunity to deepen reforms and attract investment. She made remarks at a symposium hosted by commercial law firm Streams, Sowers and Corn, where business leaders, policymakers, investors examine strategies to strengthen Nigeria's economy and position the country as Africa's leading investment destination.
If we have to
leading commercial law firms, Streams and Corn, convening international trade leaders, top business executives, regulators, investors, senior legal practitioners to examine strategies for strengthening Nigeria's economy and positioning the country as Africa's leading investment destination.
the biggest economic stories.
The symposium, which forms part of activities marking the firm's 20th anniversary, is also focusing on practical policy, legal and regulatory solutions aimed at improving Nigeria's investment climate amid an increasingly volatile global economic environment. The theme of the event is Nigeria's path to economic resilience and investment leadership in volatile global environment, and organizers discuss on how Nigeria can attract greater investment, strengthen economic resilience, and unlock opportunities under the African Continental Free Trade Area.
We chose this topic. We would have chosen a law topic, but we said, in August, we are going to Port Harcourt. We'll be talking a lot of law. Let's talk about something else that we think is dear to us, even as lawyers. Because trade helps to build bridges between nations, helps to strengthen relationships. And that's why we've chosen the topic Nigeria's path to economic resilience and investment leadership in a volatile global environment.
On the far side chart, Director General of the World Trade Organization, who is the special guest, acknowledges the shock over global crisis, but reassures that such hasn't affected world trade.
When you are providing services electronically to some customer somewhere, you are trading, and it's categorized as digitally delivered services trade, consulting services. It is the fastest growing segment of trade at almost 6% a year. And the reason I'm excited about it is if you look at the type of people who are involved, younger people, women, it provides them the means with which they can trade and reach other parts of the world in a way that perhaps they were not able to do before.
In her remarks, the keynote speaker says the current economic reforms are tough but a necessary step to galvanize the country's economic recovery.
There have been painful reforms that have been done, but those reforms are necessary to provide the foundation for the resilience that the private sector then needs to build on. Nigeria's rating has already been improved. Nigeria's outlook has been rated as stable. That, from a sovereign perspective, now needs to translate into boardrooms. when that value is translated to great returns for governance that the private sector can then benefit from.
The highlights of the program's session to discuss how the three founding partners came together to form Streamsowers and Karen. They're emphasizing that while it wasn't a work of the pack, coming together to birth what has eventually formed an umbrella for many partners, it was a partnership built on trust and determination.
Let's talk about digital health supply innovation, and reports indicate that South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya and Egypt, they account for about 60% of all health supply chain innovators are headquartered in Africa, with nearly 350 innovators identified across the continent. I'm glad Nigeria is mentioned there, but I mean the question is, and so what? What has it done to the economy in a country like Nigeria? We have our Director of Supply Chain and Salient Advisory, Mr. Dijuguye, right here in the studio. Mr. Guye, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Amy. It's so good to be here with you.
Good to have you. So the numbers are good. Nigeria is part of those controlling 60%.
Yeah.
But then what's the impact?
Well, we can't, there's no available data per se just to see the economic impact. But what we've seen so far, especially in the ecosystems of these countries, first of all, the fact that those innovators are based on the continent are actually building these solutions for the African context. We can't apply the same context across different geographic locations across the world, but because they are based here, they build for that context. What we are seeing right now is a 30% reduction in the cost of distribution across some of these markets on average because of the innovations that are coming in. And we're actually seeing a significant impact on the impact of counterfeits, which actually cost a lot of
so the innovations are dealing with counterfeits.
Exactly. We have mobile tech serialization technologies. We have track and trace technologies that are actually dealing with the counterfeits, because counterfeits, they fill the pipeline, and this accounts for significant losses for the players in the market, not to talk about impacts on our health.
Human beings.
Exactly. So we are starting to study this, and this actually is documented in our report, our AI in Health Supply Chain report, where we actually look at all of the innovators across board. We looked at we followed about 20 main innovators that are actually working across the supply chain value chain.
But you also did say in your report that the 20 are disconnected.
Okay, so on the disconnection, I think that was referring to the McKinsey report, which was the fragmentation across the value chain. Now, that report actually previously pointed to 9 different supply chains in Nigeria in the healthcare sector. You can imagine the inefficiency that came with that. But now that we have the National Supply Chain project, National Supply Chain Integration Project, led by the Ministry of Health right now, we are seeing that being collapsed into a more efficient supply chain across the health sector in Nigeria specifically.
What about connecting the continents?
Well, connecting the continent to what context?
I mean, with the supply chain.
Yes.
So we don't, as Nigeria, we don't have to only depend on what Nigerian manufacturers.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
We can also look to South Africa and other African countries.
Exactly. So there's an initiative being run by the Africa CDC to champion local manufacturing across the continent. You can imagine the impact during the pandemic, where we didn't have access to immediate access to life-saving medicines and those interventions. Point in case is PVAC right now, the presidential initiative right now that is actually bringing local manufacturing into Nigeria, where Nigeria becomes a hub for WHO certified products, medicines to serve our community at lower cost, which is with the partnership with PMG, MAN and other players to bring down cost, to ensure that accessibility is not impacted across the value chain. So a lot of, just taking it back slightly to the health tech innovations, part of our report on AI in health tech in supply chains, Actually, you can marry it with another report that we did on innovators, about 350 innovators in sub-Saharan Africa that are actually fixing the entire end-to-end value chain. One, they're looking at issues on our demand forecasting, our inventory management, looking at our procurement processes to try to simplify and make them more efficient. Because again, without these interventions, you're seeing increased costs, which lead to increased costs for these medicines, and then it becomes an accessibility issue. This is where counterfeits usually come in.
And Salient Advisory is saying AI has a solution to everything. The bottlenecks,
Exactly.
the disconnection.
Yes.
And these 350 innovators, are they working together?
They are working together. So
On
they
the
are across,
platform?
no, not on the platform. They are across. They speak to different issues.
Aspects of the supply chain.
Exactly. Specifically, our report looks at the end-to-end value chain from demand, from planning to sourcing and procurement, to manufacturing, to distribution and logistics, to
Demand forecasting.
Yes. So on the demand forecasting side, the solutions we're looking at, for example, we showcased two innovators, one in Ethiopia and one in Kenya. In Kenya, In Supply Labs was actually able to cut down procurement time from about 3 days to 1 hour. Right, from integrating their systems and automating their processes. We also have another innovator that we showcased in Kenya, that was in Ethiopia, sorry, that was able to actually take about $38 million on procurement spend. Actually reduce it.
All of this is private sector drive, yeah?
Exactly.
And not with the government.
Not public sector. And that is where the next discussion goes, is how do we bridge this gap?
Exactly. Because you really need the government if you want to do the huge bridging of the gap.
So impact is usually going to be felt best in the public sector. Right, and that is where we also, in addition to the AI in our supply chain report we did, we actually have a program called I3, where we bring innovators and funders to ensure that the innovators are showcased and have the funding to build their solutions. But what is happening now, what we're seeing, is that they're not building for the public sector; they're building for the private sector, and this is where we need the government to actually come in.
PVAC, yeah.
Exactly.
So I think you guys should reach out to PVAC.
No, we are working with PVAC.
So that we should be able to bring the public sector, bring them in a bit, and
exactly. We're working across board.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Dinjeguye, Director of Supply Chain at Salient Advisory. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Ini. It's my pleasure being here.
Let's go global.
All right, let's get a check now on the global economy. We see SpaceX that delivered a strong second quarter earning report, beating Wall Street's revenue expectations, posting a much smaller than expected loss. But despite impressive growth in Starlink and its AI business, investors focus on one thing: soaring capital spending. If you can put up the data for me now, we see the earnings from yesterday. That's the Q2 earnings for SpaceX. We see that it's quite impressive, looking at the revenue the company made. All right, joining me now is Daniel Mobolaji. He's a senior research analyst at Bamboo. Joins me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, buddy. Good morning.
Good morning. So we see SpaceX, they delivered quite an impressive report there. You've seen their revenue beat, but when it comes to that AI spend, we see there's still an issue there. They're spending a lot on AI. How do you see the earnings?
Yes, they are spending a lot on AI. So the company reported second quarter earnings of around $8 billion. We're seeing double-digit growth across all their core segments, so space, connectivity, and also AI. But then what investors are really paying attention to is the capital expenditure. So the company is guiding towards $18 billion this year or so far for CAPEX, 15 billion of that going directly towards AI. And then the market sentiment generally is around, okay, when do we begin to see the impact of this spending? The company did still report a loss of around $541 million. So it is still not a profitable company. And the profits that we're expecting are not coming anytime soon. So investors are really starting to ask the question that if you're spending $18 billion, 15 billion of that going towards AI, when are we going to see that reflect on the income statement?
All right, and we did see the share price, that's for after hours trading for SpaceX, that dropped about 8%, but it did close in the green. That's for regular trading hours. That's looking at the trading for SpaceX. Yes, it closed at $125.33, up about 10%. But after the investors read deeper into the earnings, post-market trading there, it did drop. What is that telling us, at this point?
Yeah, so it's two things. So first of all, yes, the stock did rally into the close last night, and that's because, it's SpaceX. There was an anticipation that earnings were going to be good. Elon Musk himself tweeted something to that effect. But then when the financial statements actually dropped and we're seeing the level of spending going towards AI, it's number one, it's concerning. And then with SpaceX, there's another thing you have to look out for, and that is the expiry of the lockup period. So typically when a company goes to IPO, insiders, employees, some early investors, their shares are locked up, so they're not allowed to sell immediately after the IPO to the new buyers. Now, SpaceX did something interesting. So instead of like a set period, let's say in November, everybody can sell their shares, they decided to do a staggered release. So by tomorrow, 20% of the total available supply of those shares is going to be unlocked, and the market is expecting some selling. For context, SpaceX has around 281 million shares available for trading. By tomorrow, another 900 million shares are going to be available for trading. And stock prices respond to the law of demand and supply. So if demand stays flat or falls, and then we have this supply of new shares unlocked coming into the market, there's an expectation that there's going to be some selling pressure. Now, whether those early investors and employees and insiders are actually going to sell is up for debate, but the market is expecting that. And because there's that expectation, the price is reflecting that there's anxiety over new shares coming onto the market and potentially being sold.
Right, it almost seems like short is the right trade at this point. But Starlink continues to be SpaceX's largest revenue engine. So it seems subscriber growth, that should be important. Enterprise adoption to sustain future earnings. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, so that is what we're seeing. So SpaceX, when you break down the different components of their revenue, Starlink continues to provide more than half of the revenue and half of the profits, around $4.2 billion in the quarter. We also saw that subscribers grew almost double, in fact double, over the reporting period. So they now have around 12 million subscribers. And then the key part to pay attention to is actually enterprise adoption, because that's where they believe that the majority of future revenue is going to come in. The context being that the average revenue per user for Starlink is around $66. Last year, it was around 85. Now that number has come down because as SpaceX is trying to grow their subscribers, they are going into other markets and they have to lower their pricing to be competitive in those markets. Now, we don't see that same dynamic when it comes to the enterprise adoption. They did close a $6 billion contract with the US Space Force for a customized, satellite network. We're also seeing that they reported partnerships with American Airlines, with JetBlue, with Southwest, and they're also doing partnerships with T-Mobile as well. So they do believe that enterprise adoption is really important. And when you even break down the CapEx spend next to AI, space and Starlink takes the bulk of the money, and everything around how SpaceX is operating their business shows that they do believe that Starlink is going to be the continuous driver of revenue. So we see that a lot of spending is going towards there. Even when you think about the rockets as well, everyone understands that SpaceX is a company that launches rockets, but then they did, let's say, 38 launches last quarter. 28 of those launches were to put more satellites in orbit. So we do see that there's an understanding within the company that, look,
right,
Starlink is continue being our growth engine, and we should, double down on that.
All right. Well, all eyes are on SpaceX after that monster IPO. Thank you so much, Daniel Mobolachi, Senior Research Analyst, Bamboo. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get a check on other stories now. We see Honda. They've kicked off its new financial year on a strong note, reporting first quarter revenue and profit well ahead of market expectations while raising its full year earnings outlook. The Japanese automaker posted its first quarterly profit increase in 6 quarters, driven by strong motorcycle sales, improved performance in its automobile business, and a weaker yen. Despite ongoing challenges in China and a global shift in the electric vehicle market, Honda says it remains confident about the rest of the year as it focuses on profitability and a growing hybrid vehicle lineup. Then to Pharma now, Novo Nordisk. They raised their full-year earnings outlook after delivering stronger than expected second quarter results, but that wasn't enough to reassure investors. Shares of the Danish drug maker fell sharply after sales of its blockbuster weight loss pill Wegovy narrowly missed expectations, while disappointing clinical trial results for its next generation obesity treatment raised fresh concerns about its competitive position against Eli Lilly. The results highlight the growing pressure on the fast-expanding global obesity drug market, where innovation and execution are becoming just as important as strong earnings. And we see Siemens Energy. They've delivered another strong quarter, beating analyst expectation on both profit and revenue as booming demand for AI data centers and power infrastructure that's fueled record sales. The German energy technology company reported a sharp rise in earnings, driven by strong orders for gas turbines. And that's what's hot in the global economy. It's back to Uni.
Thank you, Ladi. And just before we head out, we'll go to the market and see sustained red color in the market this morning. The oil share has dropped 0.02%, still around 244,000. And Japan Gold is still in the red, as well as First Oil Co, among others. We see a little bit of recovery on Access Holdings, but they're not enough to bring it back to where it used to be. Airtel Africa is positive this morning, as well as Triple G. But you get more details and highlighted numbers or updated numbers at 1:30 when Ladi Williams will be back. And that's it for Business Morning today. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Remember, you can always watch us on YouTube. I'll be back tonight for the Stock Market Report.